All right. Welcome back to our video essays. Today we are doing Daredevil Yellow, which is our first of the Marvel Color series. So with that, it's like Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Gray, Captain America White. Essentially, all of these are like love letters to that character's like love interest or favorite person. So Daredevil, it's to Karen Page, his first love. I mean, if you can say first love. But if you don't know Karen Page, she was a longtime character that had a weird history with Matt Murdock. She was on and off again. I mean, Matt has been with tons of people. Elektra, Typhoid Mary, Karen Page, who this is about. He's been married to Black Widow. Just random people also. I mean, he's a hoe, to put it lightly. But Karen started as their kind of secretary for Nelson and Murdoch. And then eventually she gets engaged to Matt, tells Matt, hey, I want to be with you, but also you cannot be Daredevil. And he says, I can't do that. So they break up. She moves to like San Francisco or like somewhere in California. I can't remember. Then she kind of starts up an acting career. It doesn't really go anywhere. She gets addicted to heroin. And by the way, I want to say, for everybody who wants comic accuracy in these shows, I want Karen to get addicted to heroin. Where's that at? That's what I want. That's the thing that I've been dreaming of for years. I've been saying that since Daredevil season 2. Minimum is that I want Karen to get a drug addiction. All right. Going from this. Yeah, so then this leads into the Born Again run where she sells his identity to some mobsters or just for like a fix. That gets to Kingpin, ruins Matt's life. They kind of reconcile and then stop dating again, just like always. And then some other stuff happens where Mysterio and Bullseye trick her into thinking that a baby that he's protecting is the Antichrist, and then she gets croak-boated by Bullseye. Epic prank. Hits him with Daredevil's Billy Club, and then yeah, she's done. That was in volume 2, I believe. And correcting what I said for the Daredevil Man Without Fear, Elektra died in volume 1, not volume 3. Frank Miller wrote volume 1. Wrote some of volume 1. Volume 3 was totally different. I don't know where I got it confused. But Karen is usually shown as like Daredevil's first love besides Elektra. So this whole miniseries is kind of a love letter that Daredevil's writing to Karen after she died at the hands of Bullseye, just to help cope with what's happening. And it's just kind of a retelling of his first kind of years with Nelson and Murdoch, and also meeting Karen and how they kind of started dating. So it starts off with Daredevil kind of just jumping around, going through his old stomping ground, talking about how he got this idea of writing a letter to Karen after she died from Foggy to help him cope, because he's not handling this well. It's gotten so bad that now Foggy is worried. And as you may remember, when Foggy gets worried, he starts to look for solutions. Seems he's come up with the suggestion. I don't know where he gets these things, that I write you a letter about how I'm feeling to get it all out. So he kind of starts back at his old gym that he used to box at and that his dad used to box at, talking about how he hopes writing this letter will bring back the Man Without Fear and kick him out of this groove. So it starts with him and Foggy in college, studying for exams before they graduate. What's different about this kind of series compared to what we had last time with The Man Without Fear is that his dad is still alive as an adult. Like, he is in college and his dad is still swinging. Foggy talks about how his dad's in the paper, having a chance at the heavyweight champ of the world as a boxer. And then we still see that he is with the Fixer, just like how he was in The Man Without Fear. And then we kind of see Jack's personality a little bit more. Kid Murdoch. My dad hated it, but the newspapers dubbed him that because of his age. He wanted the world to know he was born battling Jack Murdock. And then he's kind of showboating with Foggy and Matt at a dinner. Accidentally spills some ketchup on some lady next to him. He's like, I don't know how strong I am. It was an accident. And he pulls out some money. But yeah, we see he fights Creel for the heavyweight championship. And the Fixer tells him, hey man, take a dive. That's the only reason that you're actually here right now, is because all the other guys took a dive. So now it's your turn. Creel's got to win. And we kind of know how this story goes. He says no, looks at Matt, and thinks about all the things that he told him. And he gets back up and wrecks Creel. Gets that championship. And he knows that he is basically done for. So he gives Matt his robes and say, hey Matt, I want you to have this. I'm never going to do this any better than now. I got to quit while I'm ahead, basically. And Matt says, that was the last thing my dad ever said to me. And then we kind of get what happened in the Man Without Fear, where Sweeney and the Fixer meet up with Jack and kablamo him in the back alley. I'm not going to play the clip like I did last time.
Oh, hang on there, son. What's the hurry?
I think that's my dad.
Jesus, Ray, the kid's blind.
I read about a did you say want to a 10-year-old with...
But yeah, this time Matt hears, and he doesn't know if he wakes up before or right after, but he knows that he couldn't feel his dad's heartbeat anymore. So Matt does the only logical thing and runs over to his dad. And I do like this little tidbit where he ran over there and it looked so unconvincing that he was blind that the police didn't know. And Foggy didn't really understand how he knew. So he says, it's so unimportant now, but later, I made a point to tell Foggy how I ran in the direction of the sirens just to keep my secret. He never really pushed it further, and I never really thanked him for being there that night. But all I remember is the smell of Old Spice, my dad's blood, and pistachio nuts. So the pistachio nuts actually come in handy to kind of pinpoint who murdered Jack Murdock. So then we cut to them in court, and they kind of get away with it for now. That's the judge says, or the attorney, I'm sorry, says, hey, these guys, there's no murder weapon, there's no evidence at the crime scene besides some pistachio nuts. And so Matt's obviously mad about this, screaming from the stands like, this is wrong, did they buy you off? Mocking the judge, which is crazy because he's a law student. So, and then the Fixer looks at him and says, hey, let this be a lesson to you, man. Don't step into the ring unless you know you're going to win, kind of mocking him because he killed Jack. So Matt passes and gets out there. The case stalled. They couldn't find any evidence. No fingerprints on the pistachio nuts. So he said that he was going to do something about it instead. He grabs his dad's old uniform, sews it together into my second favorite suit, the Daredevil Yellow suit. This is sick. He says, I read about the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, but they weren't going to get involved in my problems. I promised my dad I would never be an uneducated pug like him. He wanted me to be a lawyer, and I made good on that. But it wasn't enough. I'd seen how the law, which I still steadfastly believed in, wasn't always the same as justice. And what I like about this is that, unlike the Man Without Fear, where he became a lawyer because his dad broke the rules, etc., he becomes a lawyer because his dad was like, hey, I don't want you to fight, don't want you to be like me, so I want you to become a lawyer, somebody smart. And that is kind of current in the show, and I feel like this is more current with, or more accurate with the current runs. I don't really see that anymore with him just because of his dad hitting him. He became a lawyer. But battling Jack Murdock raised me to be a fighter, and now it's time to step into the ring. And then we close out on the first issue in his suit. And then we enter into issue number 2, which I have on my wall. I love this cover. So it starts with him getting his revenge on the people that murdered his dad, kind of telling them to testify in court. One of them gets chased down and stopped in a subway where he has a heart attack. Daredevil says that he doesn't kill him, but I mean, it's pretty much his fault. We saw this last time in The Man Without Fear, also where he attacks everybody, but that's when he was like a teenager, way younger, right when his dad first died. Not when he's an adult, already in a suit, got a billy club, and then the police kind of come at him and are like, "Hey, who are you? Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm Daredevil." And then he tells him that this guy died. There's a guy in the boxing gym. He's ready to testify. He's got a weapon. His name's Slade. He killed Jack Murdock. He's not going to say his dad. I was going to say he killed my dad, but yeah, he's not going to just be like, "Hey, I'm Matt Murdock. Killed my dad." But yeah. So he's wearing that goofy suit. And then we kind of cut to him and Foggy trying to set up their actual place of work, Nelson and Murdock. They already have it set up. They're just looking for a secretary at this point and looking for clients. So, true to his word, Foggy set out to find us a secretary for the law office. He smiles about it back then, or about it now, but back then. And then we see him go through the interview process. He's getting annoyed with everybody. This person's like, "I can't work any days." This person's chain smoking. Another lady with a kid. And then we get introduced to Karen Page. And she says, "Hey, is there something I need to know about Mr. Murdoch? Because I don't see that guy here." And then we get introduced to Murdoch and Karen Page meeting each other. And he says, I didn't have to have eyesight to know I was looking at the most beautiful woman in the world." Which I want to say, if he's telling you that you're the most beautiful woman in the world, I mean, you have to be stunning. This guy's been with everybody. Also, it could mean that you're not that beautiful because he can't see. But that kind of puts us into issue 3, where they got a secretary, but now they're getting clients. And their first kind of clients are the superhero type, where the thing just busts into their office and destroys everything. So Ben starts making fun of him after he busts in, calling them shysters, making fun of Matt because he's blind. He's like, "Oh, what kind of good lawyer is blind?" And Reed, leader of the Fantastic Four, is like, "Hey, Ben, shut up. I got recommended these guys. Like, they're top biz, even though they're brand new." It's just about, like, leasing stuff, patents for the Baxter Building, which, if you don't know what the Baxter Building is, it's just where the Fantastic Four are residing at, where they live at, whatever, their whole family, kids, Valeria, Franklin Richards, yada yada. We'll go into them some other day when we do, like, a character study or one of their stories. But yeah, I love it. It's really cute because they're all in, like, their little Fantastic car. Reed's upset that he broke through the side of the building instead of going in the front. He told Ben to go through the front. It's like, "Hey, bill us this, and then also we'll pay for your stuff because we destroyed it." So obviously, Foggy's like, "Yeah, we got our first clients," dancing, running around the office. He says that they should go get drinks, celebrate. Tells him, he's like, "Hey, Matt, we should go to our old college bar that we always go to." And Matt's like, "Yeah, that's fun. I don't really care." He's like, "It's not worth arguing. I think we should be very proud of what we did today. I forgot all about the Fantastic Four and what they thought. Only thing that mattered was you." And he's talking about Karen. And then we also kind of see, like, the first of Foggy having a crush on Karen, because he's like, "Call me Foggy. Mr. Nelson's too professional. Like, you can call me by my actual name." Yeah. And then we get to see some Daredevil action in his little yellow suit, leaping around, thinking about Karen. He's like, "I could have taken a subway or a bus or a taxi, but because I was thinking of you, I could fly." And he's just hopping around all the way until he gets to the actual bar. And these are my favorite kind of Matt Murdock's things, where he's just a hustler. And we get to see him get made fun of by these guys playing pool, and they're making fun of him for being blind, doing Helen Keller jokes. And he's like, he just one-ups them. He starts playing pool. He's like, $5 a game? Yeah, sure. And he just floors them, and he starts going around with Helen Keller jokes with Foggy. And he's like, oh, my favorite thing about all the Helen Keller jokes, I've heard them all, bud. So him and Foggy make out like a bandit, and then they just kind of leave. They're going home for the night. They're done. And Matt's like, you two get on out of here. Flirts with Karen a little bit. Foggy's like, I'll make sure she's all safe. Like a nerd. Meanwhile, Karen's talking to Matt, and he's like, I got hiccups. And then Matt's like, oh, here's how you fix it. Like flirting just together. And then they leave, and Matt's like, hey, you don't got to beat me up on the street. I'll come to the alleyway. And it's those guys that they hustled in the bar. And he just beats them up. Breaks his cane, smacks them, grabs a trash can, throws it, hits them with the end of the broomstick that they grabbed. And he's like, you must have been blind. Smacks him in the back of the head, and he just knocks them all out and just dips. And then we get to see the Fixer, who is in jail after he testified everything against himself, basically. And he's like, well, I don't care about your dead friend. I want to know who fixed things for the Fixer. And he's like, you're not getting that from me. And because he's like, I'm already dead. I'm in jail for life, basically. And then he starts mocking Murdoch. And he's like, hey, bring me some pistachio nuts, because he found pistachio nuts on his dead dad's body. So Matt just kind of leaves. And then we get to see one of the other first clients is this woman that comes in. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't trust anybody. And Foggy's doing his thing, just talking to her. And Matt's like, oh, we'll take the case. But she leaves, and she's like, I shouldn't be here. And then her whole story, Matt's like, some of it was a lie, which is strange. And then we get to see what is another iconic Daredevil villain that we don't really see anymore, the Owl. And he steps in, he's like, hey, I believe that a woman came to see you. Please call me the Owl. Can I hire you guys? So he is one of the other first clients that they get. So they get a superhero and they get a villain. Now cutting back to Daredevil, issue 4 is him kind of loving that thrill of him being Daredevil. And I do love seeing this because it's early days Daredevil where he's kind of cocky and he hasn't really fought any villains. And his first kind of big villain in this is Electro, because Spider-Man has existed. He mentioned it earlier that it's one of his inspirations. So he's fighting Electro at the Baxter building while he's working that job for the patents that he was talking about in the last issue. So he's getting roughed up, getting destroyed by Electro because he's got no rubber on him, no rubber in his soles. But he's loving the thrill of the chase, and he's chasing down Electro, chases him down to Radio City Music Hall, where the Rockettes are at, and he's ruining the Rockettes' performance, and he smashes in there, kicks him off the thing, and Electro's like, hey, dude, I understand you're Daredevil, you're new, but I'm a super villain. You think that this is gonna, like, make you famous? And Daredevil's like, I don't know how I got here after trying to avenge my dad, but I know that I gotta stop you. And he hits the sprinkler. Electro kind of shocks himself, and he's like, I'm making a name for myself, and he beats him up. And then all the Rockettes, I don't know. So all the girls are flaunting over him, calling him muscular, all the little jazz. And then Karen's staring out the window and is like, oh my goodness, look, Foggy, it's Daredevil, he's swinging by. So she's a big fan of Daredevil. And then Matt comes in, and Foggy's all jealous, and he's like, you really like that Daredevil, meh. And then Matt walks in, and he's like, what's all the commotion about? And then they're both giving Karen a hard time about liking Daredevil and blah, blah, blah. This is when they're like flirting, asking her if she's got a boyfriend. And then they invite each other all to bowling. They go have fun. And this is where what's really funny is that Foggy's really good at bowling. And Matt, since he's blind, kind of fakes that he's bad at bowling. Or he might just even be bad at bowling. But yeah, he's faking a gutter balls. And he's like, I have no idea what to do. And so Karen helps him. And he gets one pin. And then they both celebrate. Foggy's all mad in the corner, upset that Karen's all up on Matt and celebrating, and then Matt says, "I'll never forget that night, Karen. It was the first time I felt your body pressed against me. It was like your heart pounding inside of mine." And then we cut to Matt seeing Slade get executed for killing his dad. So he's in the electric chair, and he's like, maybe this is similar to the excitement that I had with Electro. And no, it wasn't. He was like, it was pretty bad. Smelled terrible. He couldn't bring himself to make fun of him, bring out the pistachio nuts. And then he cuts to his dad's apartment where he took over after his dad died. He kept his still chair, but he told Foggy that he just couldn't get rid of all that stuff. And then lastly, we cut him back to his office where we see Foggy just running around in a circle, kind of trying to think of what to do. And this is where all that setup of Foggy flirting with Karen, not really getting it through to her, and her not really giving it back. He basically tells Matt after he walks in, he's like, you know me the best, but I think I'm going to marry Karen. And Matt's like, I was so blind, Karen. I could sense things that no other person could. But on this one subject, I was in the dark. Because he had no idea that Foggy also loved Karen. And then we we do end that issue. And then we start this issue, issue 5, with Matt not knowing where Karen is. So she's been taken by somebody, and he's trying to listen to her. He's on top of the Empire State Building, and this is where you see where he gets his name from. You used to call me the man without fear, Karen, and on that night, though I was afraid I had lost you, Foggy had sent you downtown to deliver some papers to our client, the Owl, and you didn't return to the office. So Matt is telling us that he picked up the name the man without fear because of her. And we do see that he also picked something else up because of her in the last issue. But it's important to that's how much Karen meant to him, was that he changed his personality. So him on top of the Empire State Building, he finally does kind of zero in on Karen talking to the Owl. And he runs over there, and once he gets there, the Owl is already gone. And then the woman that he talked to earlier, before the Owl came into their office, her name is Grace, is there. And she's telling Karen, I can't help you escape because one day somebody will have some dirt on you that you won't understand, but you have to listen to him. Because I guess the Owl's got some dirt on this Grace person and won't let Karen free because of it and has to listen. So what happens is Daredevil's like, hey, what's up? I'm going to help you, lady. Pretending that he doesn't know Karen. Breaks her out. She jumps out. And then Karen calls him, oh, Daredevil, the man without fear, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, you got to go, Karen. And she's like, how do you know my name? I never told you my name. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. I've been seeing you in my dreams, out flirting again. But he thinks, how much different if I just told you the truth right there? Would you still be alive? Which is a pretty deep thought of if he just was honest with her, would he avert her dying to Bullseye in the future? But, and then he gets distracted by flirting with Karen, of course, as any men do, get distracted while flirting. That the Owl comes in, beats the tar out of Daredevil. So Daredevil's giving it back. And then eventually the Owl's like, I am leaving out of here. And he flies through the window, and then Matt's follows him behind, latches onto him, and then accidentally drops him into the water where they still keep fighting. And then Matt swims all the way up and then talks about how fighting in the ring, sometimes, you just can't win. You just have to hope to be saved by the bell, and that you still get out of that with respect. And then all he thinks about it is when it all came down to it, where were you at? You're the final bell. And then it just cuts to the next day. The owl is at large now. It says that they thought he died, but even he says it. I learned pretty quickly that supervillains had an ugly habit of coming back from the dead. As we all know, everybody in comics keeps coming back. Besides if your name is Uncle Ben, and even it used to be if you're Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy, but apparently Gwen Stacy's coming back recently. I have no idea. I'm not going to read any of that, though. In the new Gwenpool, unfortunate that they bring her back. I mean, even in Axe of Judgment Day, they bring her back for a little bit, and it's like, at least she's not back permanently. And then there's the storyline where Wanda brings Gwen back for Spider-Man in, like, House of M, I believe. Yeah, I mean, at least she wasn't back permanently at that time. Now she's apparently back, like, to life. So dumb, but whatever. But yeah, continuing on. Karen talks to Matt about her and Daredevil, about what Daredevil was doing and how he saved her, and Foggy sees them kind of playing too friendly, as I would say, touching each other, dancing around, blah, blah, blah. But Foggy he gets the vibe, and he's like, well, even if they're not together right now, he kind of sees that they like each other, and he's like, I'm not even going to try it anymore. And he turns around, throws his flowers away. And I will say that he is kind of an adult about it, because in the last issue number 6, we see him and Matt talk about it. But we'll get to that point when we need to. Issue number 6 starts with, Dear Karen, this is the last time I will be writing to you. Ever since I began my journey into our past, I've never felt closer to you, and I think it is time to let go. So this is the last issue of the series, obviously. But Daredevil is getting more popular in the media, and she keeps talking about him like always. Like she always does. One trick pony over here. Matt's like, oh, flirting again. And then the phone's going off, and Foggy's like, hey, somebody answer that. Because he's all upset that they're flirting and together. But he answers it, and it's City Hall calling them and like, hey, can you represent our person in jail? And the person is the Purple Man, which is not one of my favorite villains, but is a cool villain. So if you don't know what the Purple Man does, is that he releases pheromones into like around his body, and they make you listen to him basically. So he's in Jessica Jones's show on Netflix, and also he has kids, and they're super important for the storyline of Devil's Reign, which we will probably cover one day. Maybe not soon, but yeah. So his powers are pretty cool. They're pretty interesting because it's not like he brainwashes people. He releases the pheromones and they just kind of do what he says because they feel like they have to. And we get to see that as Karen joins Matt to City Hall. And when he gets there, the Purple Man's like, hey, let me out. And the police just let him out. He brings Karen along with him, and he's like, we're going to have a good old time at the hotel. Rah, 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 like a little 60s man. And then the police officers, he controls them to shoot at Daredevil. Daredevil, I guess it's kind of been explained, but not really, is that if you have enough will and like determination and like strong feelings, is that he won't infect you. It's been used, like Luke Cage has stopped him in the Devil's Reign story. There's other instances of it, but yeah, Daredevil kind of it doesn't work on Daredevil. He doesn't care. And so I like the coloring of this also, is that if you're infected by him, you're also purple. So like he's an actual Purple Man and then Karen's purple. But he follows the Purple Man back to the hotel that he took Karen to and breaks in, beats up the Purple Man. The Purple Man tells Karen to jump off, and he saves Karen and then leaves her down on the sidewalk, and he's like, hey, you want to go out with me? And she's like, yes, sir, Mr. Daredevil. And they go out, and she's like, oh, come out at 8 o'clock, whatever. Little date set up. And then he goes back up, beats up the Purple Man, covers him in a little cloak, and he's like, hey, guys, keep this guy covered up so that he doesn't infect you guys anymore. And then he just dips. And Foggy's there, and he's like, did Daredevil just save you? Where's Matt at? And so this is what I was kind of talking about with Foggy being an adult, is that they both are back at Nelson and Murdoch office, and Foggy's like, hey, so only one of us can have Karen. We can't let it come between our friendship because we've been friends for a very long time and we have a business. So, and then Karen comes back and she calls him Matt and Foggy instead of Mr. Murdoch and Mr. Nelson like Foggy thought. And then Karen seems in an upbeat mood, and she tells him, oh, Daredevil's taking me out on a date. So then both of them are kind of come to the agreement, oh, nice, that's perfect for us. And then this ends with Daredevil wrapping up his letter, saying that Foggy never found love, but you found out that Daredevil and Matt were one and the same, and now you are dead. And then there is a point earlier I forgot to say that the reason he's wearing the red is because that's Karen's favorite color. So you get to see him in the red iconic suit, and it says, at this time, I don't think I ever forgave myself for what happened to you. I've carried around the guilt of knowing that if you hadn't walked into our offices that day looking for a job, you might be alive today. And then he laments about his father at the end, about how he kind of became what his dad didn't want him to be, but also he's not an uneducated pug like his dad wanted. And instead of honoring his dad through his colors, he rebuilt the gym up and named the gym Battling Jack's Gym. So he honors his dad that way by doing his boxing legacy. And then he ends his little letter with, I miss you, Karen, and I will always love you. So that's Daredevil Yellow. That is one of my favorite Daredevil runs, little mini series, whatever. That basically concludes our kind of Daredevil talk for a bit and starts the color series, where we will, next time we're going to talk about Spider-Man Blue. I love Spider-Man Blue also. It's very similar. But yeah, so that was Daredevil Yellow. That's a good one. And that's written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by Tim Sale. And I have to say that I do love the art for this series too. Tim Sale did an amazing job. And both of these guys together did the whole color series. So we'll see a lot of them recently. So thank you for watching. Next time is Spider-Man Blue. Sorry, almost said Daredevil Yellow again. All right, peace out.